Welcome to the PT Legends podcast, where co-host Dave Bess and myself, Scott Carpenter, share our journey and secrets of success. From our humble beginnings as personal training employees of a big box gym to struggling studio owners that have made every mistake in the book, to where we are now, the owners of a multi-seven-figure business operating multiple personal training studios internationally, and now coach and mentor to fitness professionals in 5 countries and counting. This is our story, and these are our secrets. Subscribe to our podcast, learn, take action, and build your own fitness empire. Welcome back to the PT Legends Show. I'm your host, Scott Carpenter.
Big Dave clocking in.
Clocking back in for another episode. And today we're going to talk about how finding your one thing can change your life. This is something that Dave and I have done for a long time, and it has dramatically improved our productivity. It has dramatically improved our quality of life in many different ways. And it's a very simple practice, but it's not easy necessarily to do at the same time. And it's hard to find out what that one thing is. So I guess, Dave, why don't you explain to everybody what, on a daily basis, what is your one thing?
Yeah, and I think it's really important. What's allowed me to take it to that next level, it is very specifically time blocked into my day too. So it's not like I used to say, okay, here's my one thing for the day. And then I talk about it all the time. A lot of times that one thing is uncomfortable. It's the thing that like creating like a new program. You could try to sneak that into your one thing, but is that the one thing that's going to move the envelope forward? Probably not. So what I noticed that I was doing, not the majority of the time, but I could make that excuse. Oh, my number one thing, I'll get it done a little bit later on. Right. So it had like, for me, my defining is when I started time blocking it in to what worked best for me to accomplish my one thing. And my one thing, it has to lead to sales. I think that's something that you and I have talked about just over and over. It's like, well, I can go all over the place. Like, oh, I can create something here, and we can create this Facebook group. Until we identify this is the one thing that's going to push business forward, it's going to make us money, then I didn't have the certainty that I needed with my one thing. So my one thing right now, it's so simple that I'm reaching out to 10 trainers a day on Instagram, no matter what. And then it's almost like an equation at this point. Because we'll have, and we're gathering the data based off of the number of people that I reach out to, how many is going to lead to a discovery call, how many is going to lead to an actual PC, how many are we going to sign up? Then it's just plug and play, right? Dave has to reach out to this, to get to this, to get to this. And then over the course of 1, 3, 6, 10 years, that's the magic formula. Yeah. It's something super simple, but that's hard for me to do on a day in and day out basis because it is uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. And that's it. So we typically get caught up in do the things that are more exciting to us. And I know so many entrepreneurs, and I see this habit. I had this habit all the time. It's almost like it's fantasy in a way. We want to get so caught up in building out an entire program and the nuts and bolts and getting the graphics just so it looks great and this and that. But like, we don't ever sell the damn thing. And that's fun. That's exciting. Building and creating, that's fun. So we typically lean towards that because it's more fun and it's not uncomfortable, right? Going out and having conversations with people to get the sales. Now that's uncomfortable. We'll put that shit off, but we'll work on it all the time. So like for me though, the one thing, like I have a daily practice at the end of the day, I start looking at my next day and what needs to be done. I start looking at these different tasks and all these different things, right? And then what I do is I identify what is the one thing that I need to get done tomorrow that is going to be the thing that's going to move me forward the most. Now, typically it's aligned to a greater thing, and we'll get to that in a second. Sometimes there is something timely that has to get done tomorrow. It just has to. There's a deadline. So sometimes that one thing is that. But like Dave said, the things that you need to do to move you forward are typically the most uncomfortable things, the things that you don't want to do, the things that might be scary, the things that might not have right answers or a risk of failure. typically, if you're afraid of doing something, you're on to something. That's typically what you need to do the most. And so in my daily practice, I'll kind of look at what I need to do tomorrow, my schedule. I'll identify the one thing that's the most important thing I need to do tomorrow to get me moving ahead. I'll write that down. And then the next day I do it. And just like Dave, I have time blocked out to do it. And for me, it's first thing in the morning. Why? Because if it's hard to do, if you're not certain how to do it, if there's a degree of failure, if you're scared of doing it, as the day picks up and you have your other things and fatigue sets in, or you get this call and you got to put out a fire, guess what falls off the plate? And this is what happens to us. This is what happens in people's lives. This is why they go nowhere, is because they keep putting off the most important things that are so crucial to them moving ahead. They never get to them. We're always busy, but we're never getting ahead. And it's scary. There's risk when you do those things. But that's the thing. You've got to identify that. So if you zoom out from the daily practice, and I track this too. Did I do my one thing today? Right? That's the main thing that I track. Because if I do the one thing every day that I need to do to move me forward, if I do that every day, I will level up like crazy. And I have since I put this practice into play for a little over 2 years. I am so much more capable than I was 2 years ago, and so much further along in so many ways, personally, professionally, you name it.
I think it leads to freedom. Because I'm not worried about the result anymore. Like I'm not worried about green light growing. I'm not worried about, PT Legends making X amount. Like I don't worry about it anymore because I know I'm 100% in control. If I identify, okay, this is the process. This is the process. I'm going to become obsessed with that. And it's probably going to be uncomfortable. And I'm going to check that box off. And I know over the course of a year, 3 years, 6 years, can you imagine where we're going to be at in 10 years?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how much money's in my bank account today.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow, because I know if I focus on my one thing and you get that. I enjoy, like you, getting it done first thing in the morning, because then it generates so much more positive momentum in the day. I get so much more accomplished.
Yeah.
Like
if you've already knocked off the most important thing you need to do, and it's only 7 a.m. or something like that, it doesn't matter how fouled up the rest of the day gets. You still made the most important step moving to your life future. So even if the rest of your day turns to shit, you can be like, I got my one thing done. It was a good day today. The rest of the day could go to shit. You could be lazy, whatever. But if you got that one thing done, you're moving ahead and you can feel good about that day. It's that simple. I guess that's simple. And what you said, you don't have to worry about the result. Like, oh, I want to get my gym to 50K a month. Okay. Well, you can't always, you can't guarantee that, right? But when you break that down, that's a results-based goal. You can't guarantee that's going to happen with everything. There are things that are outside of your control. But you can identify, this is where you can focus on the leading measurements. If I'm doing that one thing every single day, you're doing everything you possibly can to get there. And it doesn't even matter as much whether you get there or not, right? Because you can't control that outcome. There are things that are going to take time. Economies can do different things. But you have to just look at what's inside of your control. And what's inside of your control is taking that big leap forward every day. And so I like to tie it, sometimes that one thing, it could be something timely, like there's a deadline. I have to get this thing done. It might not be related to a bigger step, but I need to get it done. Sometimes my day is that. But most often it's tied to something bigger. When you look at where you want to be in 3 years, okay, well, then look at where you need to be in 1. Look at where you need to be this quarter. Okay, so what are the things you need to do to be on track for that this month and this week? And then you can boil down and figure out what that is daily. And it's going to change periodically, right? But Dave, I had that book to write. I don't know if any of you have had to write a book, but it's a bitch. It's just not easy. It seems, even if you know a subject forward and backwards, it seems like it might be easy. But when you sit down in front of a blank page and you can start it or structure it 25 different ways, and then you finally go with one and you start writing oh no, actually it would work better if I did that. It's a hard thing to do. So my one thing for a couple months was writing that book, because here's the thing. It wasn't my one thing, and it's challenging. It's not very fun. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of brain bandwidth. If I wait until later in the day to write that book, it just ain't going to happen.
Nope.
And with everything I have, and it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening for months, right? So I made that my one thing. I busted it out. And within like 6 weeks, that thing was written. But I had to get real. I needed to make that my one thing to make it happen. And it was my one thing, I think 5 days a week is what it was.
It's a cool thing. I think that brings up a good point. A lot of times your one thing, it's very uncomfortable and it's hairy, but it doesn't take very long.
No.
Right? For me to do so, like mine's kind of tied together. Like from this day forward, this is a commitment that I made to myself. And I know if I do this, I don't think I've told you this, I'm going to make $5 million in 2027, January 1st. Little think and grow rich. So
nice.
This is my new, so it's like, what's the one, if I put out one piece of content every single day and master my story, I know I'm going to get there. So moving forward, Scott, and everybody out there, you will see I will put out one piece of content every single day for the rest of my life. That's a commitment that I made to myself, right? As long as I'm staying ahead of that curve, though, it's really only taken me 5 to 10 minutes because I always batch the videos together one day a month. I do a little bit of creative copy, which I'm always in control of. It's not this huge, big investment that I have to make on a daily basis. And it's the same thing with the trainer outreach, right? It's now I have 100 coaches that I follow that have our target demographic. I've identified those. And then I just go in, like and comment. I go from just a place of just energy and helping people out. And that's another 10-minute investment. So my one things, which will lead to me making $5 million a year, fact, it's really only a 20-minute investment. It's not 20 minutes I enjoy doing every day, but it's 20 minutes. And I know if I allot the time to it, it's not going to take me 9 hours a day to do it. It's a 10 to 20 minute job.
Yep. And it might take you a minute to get that strategy, right? To come to that conclusion. But that's another question. Like when there's something that you need to do that's very overwhelming. Okay. Ask yourself what would it look like if this were easy? If I had less time to do this, like how could I get this done in less time? How would this look easy? Do I just find somebody who's already done it and either ask them or hire them for the shortcut? That is usually a good place to start. What would it look like if it were easy? Well, if it were easy, I would hire this person to do that. And then I would do this, right? And there you go. And then just go do it. Have the boldness to do it. But most of you lack conviction with where you're going. You're playing too scared. And that has been me for sure. It has been me. And we're just playing too scared. But at the end of the day, like you got one life on this earth and you might as well go for it. And it's the fear that holds people back, and, we've finally hired a marketer to handle some of our ads. And, it's just such a relief getting that off the plate. Cause at the end of the day, there's not enough hours for us to do it well. And I'm struggling with it. And that can't be my one thing. Like running ads for the gyms can't be my one thing. It just can't. It's going to hold me back from what really is the one thing. So what would it look like if this were easy? Get that off my plate. Now we have more room for the most important things. But we just really scared to do that. Rightfully so. It's not easy, right? But at the end of the day, we got to have some courage to move forward. We got to identify where we want to be. And then what are the steps to get there? And then it's just daily execution. That's what the one thing is all about. It's executing daily because most of us just drift for weeks and months. We just drift.
Powerful.
It is. And when I first kind of learned this, even before I knew anything about anything, was when I graduated college and I worked for Philip Morris, Big Tobacco, because they had the highest paying job. And that's my idea of success out of college, getting paid more than my friends in a company car and that stuff. Right. But in a few short years, like I realized I hate this. Here's what most people do if they hate a job in like white collar professional thing. Well, I'll stick it out because I'll probably get promoted, by next summer. And then, a big thing, like after 2 years, then they dump a large amount of like a distribution of profit sharing in a way, like a big bonus into your 401k, right? That's like 20% of your salary. Those little carrots are how they keep you in the game.
Yeah.
They just keep you in the game. They make it hard to leave, that you get complacent. But at the end of the day, you know, I knew I would be like 45 and I wish I would have, because I would have stuck there. I would have gotten promoted. I would have moved to some shit town where I didn't want to live in, maybe gotten promoted. And at a certain point you get your fingers cut off, and that's kind of just where you're at until you die. Right. And it just wasn't the life for me. It wasn't the life for me. And so the riskiest thing for me was not taking a risk. And, you know, so my one thing at that point in the game, I'm like, I need to change the direction of my entire life. I know where I'm headed if I don't.
Wow.
So, but that's when I realized, like, you gotta design your life. Most of us don't. Most of us don't. And we just don't take action every day. We put it off. We kick that can down the road. We kick it down the road. It's uncomfortable to switch jobs, to move cross country. It's uncomfortable to hire that mentor who has amazing solutions. It's uncomfortable to spend money with hiring that marketing firm, because what if it doesn't work? Right? But how else you can do it yourself, but that's got to be your one thing then, right?
Yes.
For most of you out there, like, that might be your one thing. Well, actually, most of you guys have a big, massive price problem. It doesn't matter how many leads you're going to get in. You have a price problem. Do the math. Look at your churn. Do the math. You're fucked. You need to sell something more expensive, right? That is a lot of your guys' one thing. Then once you've mastered that, then bring on that lead volume, and you will have an entirely whole nother life you never thought it was even possible. If I've done it, if Dave's done it, you can do it. So I guess we got off topic on the one thing, but the bottom line is like, look bigger. Guys, you got to know where you want to be and where you want to go, and recognize, like, why am I just treading water every single freaking day, every single week, every single month for years? Treading water will only get you drowned.
The best drug in the world is when you're in control, and you can be in control by identifying your one thing in account. I'm in control of my life. So with me checking off my one thing box, it allows me to be in control of any type of fitness goal, because I can allot the time necessary for that box, for my faith goal, right? My breath work, all that stuff that means something to me. I'm able to check that box off every day. I could spend time with my family, because after I get my one thing done at 6:30 to 7:30, I get to hang out with Carrie and Brax, right? So think of that 10 to 20 minute investment that I make on a daily basis. It allows me to be in control of my entire life.
Yeah. And what Dave is saying, because we use habit trackers. We teach you how to do that with your clients, but we also use them ourselves. And you can identify your one thing in different categories, with your business, with your health, with your relationship, with your whatever it is, right? And then you can make sure those are done. And you can move forward in all these areas of your life. It's amazing. It's amazing. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, recently what I've done is my one thing has been, we hold court. My wife and I hold court once a week. So my one thing is not a once a day thing. It's a once a week thing for that. And, you know, we do the woo-woo stuff, you know, where we tell each other why we love each other and how we appreciate each other and stuff like that, which that's not my forte, but it's helped a lot, right? Because she needs to hear those things, and it does. Yeah, it's good. It's good to do. And then, you know, every week we kind of rotate the topic on what we talk about, like our relationship, parenting, and all that kind of stuff. Then we talk about financing and finances and where we're going, all that kind of stuff. And it's really changed our relationship in a big way. And that's that one thing, right? And so 1 hour a week. Oh, and we have sex afterwards, so it's a little bit longer. But yeah, it's you know, if our relationships are hard to maintain sometimes with everything going on, stress of being a business owner. And I asked, like, what is one thing I could do that would have the biggest impact, and what would it look like if it were easy, right? Because sometimes that daily thing is not always realistic for everyone. Especially if you have like 2 young kids like we do, it can be a little bit of a nightmare. But we can do 1 hour a week. right? We can do one meeting a week, and it's changed our relationship in a big way. So yeah, your one thing, guys, you need to find them. You need to find them and make it easy. If it is too challenging, you're going to give up. So in fact, with the book, I didn't say I'm going to write for 2 hours. I didn't start there. Okay. Because what I would do, I'd look at that and like freaking write, or like write 2 chapters. Like it's just too overwhelming. So I can just put on there, like, I'm going to write for 15 minutes, or I'm going to write 1 page. I really never stopped at 1 page. You know, I get like 3 or 4 or 5 pages done.
Yep.
But just write, I'm going to write 1 page. Do that. Don't make it so overwhelming that you never get off the ground. Good topic, though. God, I love personal development.
Man. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Anything else to add, Dave?
No, I think that's it. This is a meaty one.
Cool, guys. Digest it. Like, take some action on this one, right? Like, maybe write down different areas of your life when it comes to family, fitness, you know, finances, all those different things. Write those things down. Write those goals out, and then start looking for your one things, whether it's a daily or weekly basis. It's very, very important. I promise you're going to level up. So thanks a lot for listening, guys. Tune in next week to the PT Legends Show. We will see you then. Dave and myself, Scott, would love to thank you for tuning in and listening to the PT Legends podcast. You can get direct access to us by joining our free Facebook group. Go to www.facebook.com/groups/7-figure personal trainer. That's 7-figure personal trainer with the number 7. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you can keep on learning and keep on living. Finally, if you picked up any tips whatsoever in this episode that you found helpful, be sure to leave us a review and tell us what you like best about it. Can't wait to see you on the next episode.